3 women disappeared from one house, but the house did not look like 3 people had planned to leave. The cars were still outside. The purses were still inside. Personal belongings were left behind. The family dog was still there, but Sherrill Levitt, her daughter Suzanne Streeter, and Suzanne's friend Stacy McCall were gone. This is the case known as the Springfield Three, a disappearance that began after a graduation night in Missouri and has remained unresolved for more than 3 decades. On June 6, 1992, Suzie Streeter and Stacy McCall graduated from high school in Springfield, Missouri. It should have been the beginning of a new chapter. For Suzie and Stacy, the night was supposed to be filled with friends, parties, and the kind of ordinary excitement that comes after the final day of school. There was nothing about that evening that should have become a permanent mystery. But before the next morning, 3 women would vanish from one home, leaving behind a scene so strange that people are still trying to understand it today. Suzie was 19 years old. Stacy was 18. Sherrill Levitt, Suzie's mother, was 47. She lived in a house in central Springfield, and by all normal expectations, that house should have been a place of safety at the end of the night. After graduation, Suzie and Stacy went to celebrations with friends. Plans shifted. That detail matters because the night did not follow one simple plan from beginning to end. At some point, instead of staying somewhere else, the 2 young women went to Suzie's mother's home. Sherrill was already there. According to the FBI, Sherrill Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall disappeared from Levitt's home between about 2:15 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. on June 7, 1992. That 5-hour window is where the entire case lives. Before it, there were plans, parties, friends, and a mother at home. After it, there was silence. The next morning, people came looking for Suzie and Stacy. They expected to find tired graduates sleeping late after a long night. Instead, they found a home that seemed normal and wrong at the same time. The women were not there, but their vehicles had not been taken. Their purses had not been taken. Their personal belongings had not been taken. There was no obvious sign that the 3 women had packed up and left. There was no confirmed message explaining where they had gone. No confirmed sighting of the 3 walking away together. No later phone call that solved everything. Just absence. And that absence grew heavier with every passing hour. At first, the house may not have looked like a crime scene. That may be one reason the case became so difficult. Friends and family entered the home before law enforcement could fully secure it. They were not trying to harm the investigation. They were trying to find 3 missing women. But in a disappearance case, especially one that may involve a crime, every movement inside a house can matter. A touched phone can matter. A moved object can matter. A clean surface can matter. A footprint can matter. And once a scene is disturbed, investigators may never know what belonged to the night itself and what happened after people arrived in the morning. That is one of the cruelest parts of the Springfield Three case. The people who loved them were the first people trying to understand the scene. But by trying to help, they may have unknowingly changed the only place that could still speak. The FBI lists the disappearance as occurring from Levitt's home after Suzie and Stacy returned their following graduation parties. Springfield police also maintain public information on the disappearance of the 3 women from the residence in central Springfield. But the official facts, while important, do not answer the question that makes this case so haunting. How do 3 people disappear from one home before morning? One person can disappear quietly. 2 people are harder, but 3 people, from inside a home, with personal belongings left behind, turns the mystery into something much more disturbing. If someone forced them out, how did that person control all 3? Was there a weapon? Were they threatened into silence? Were they tricked into stepping outside? Did they know the person who came to the door? That question changes everything, because if the person was a stranger, the crime required speed, control, and luck. But if the person was familiar, the first few seconds may not have felt dangerous at all. A knock at the door, a voice someone recognized, a reason to come outside, a moment of hesitation, then the entire night could have changed. This is why the known person theory has always felt so chilling. It does not require a dramatic break-in. It does not require the women to immediately understand they were in danger. It only requires trust, or at least confusion, for long enough to lose control of the situation. But there is another possibility. Maybe the person responsible did not know the women well. Maybe someone saw Suzie and Stacy earlier that night. Maybe someone followed them. Graduation night created movement. People were awake later than usual. Plans were changing. Parents may not have known exactly where every teenager was. Neighbors may have heard sounds and assumed they belonged to celebration. In that kind of night, danger can hide behind normal noise. An opportunistic predator would not need to plan every detail for weeks. They would only need the right moment. But again, the same problem remains. 3 women. No bodies. No confirmed vehicle route. No public evidence that clearly explains how they were removed. Some retellings of the case focus on the porch light. A broken light can feel important because it is physical. It is something you can picture. It gives the mind an object to hold. But a broken light does not solve the case. It raises questions. Was it broken during the disappearance? Was it broken before anyone arrived? Did someone break it to darken the entrance? Or did it become meaningful only because everything else was missing? That is the danger in cold cases. When there are not enough answers, every small detail starts to glow. A phone call becomes a possible clue. A car in the street becomes suspicious. A broken object becomes a symbol. And sometimes, a case becomes so famous that rumor begins to grow around the facts. That is why credibility matters. The confirmed core is already terrifying enough. 3 women vanished from one home in the early morning hours. They have not been heard from or seen since. According to the FBI's public case listing, their belongings were left behind. The case remains unresolved. Everything beyond that has to be handled carefully. There have been many theories. Some people believe Sherrill was the target. She was the homeowner. She was the adult inside the house. If someone came for Sherrill, then Suzie and Stacy may have arrived at the worst possible time. They may not have been part of the original plan. They may have become witnesses simply by coming home. Others believe Suzie and Stacy were the focus. They had been out that night. They had been visible. Someone could have noticed them, followed them, or learned where they were going. In that version, Sherrill may have been the unexpected obstacle. Both theories are possible. Neither has been proven. There is also the theory that the 3 women left the house willingly at first, but under false pretenses. Maybe someone claimed there was an emergency. Maybe someone asked for help. Maybe someone used a story that made the women step outside before they realized the danger. This theory helps explain the lack of obvious chaos inside the house. But it still requires the next step: moving 3 women somewhere else. And that is where the case becomes almost impossible to visualize. Did a vehicle pull up quietly? Did neighbors see anything and dismiss it as normal? Was there more than one person involved? Did the women leave the house in stages, or all at once? The public record does not give a clear answer. That silence is what has kept the case alive. Because the Springfield Three is not a mystery built around a single dramatic clue. It is built around the absence of the clue that should exist. There should have been a witness. There should have been a confirmed vehicle. There should have been a body, a confession, a recovered item, a phone record, a clear suspect, something that narrowed the night into one story. Instead, there is a house, time window, and 3 missing women. The emotional weight of the case is just as important as the mystery. For Stacy's family, graduation night did not become a memory of celebration. It became the last night before everything changed. For Suzie's loved ones, the beginning of adulthood became a disappearance. For Sherrill's family and friends, a mother's home became the center of a cold case. Families of missing people do not only lose someone once. They lose them again every time the phone rings with a tip. They lose them again when the lead goes nowhere. They lose them every holiday, every birthday, every anniversary of the day the person disappeared. And in this case, they lost 3 women at once. That is why the Springfield Three remains so powerful. It is not only a crime story. It is a story about how ordinary life can be interrupted so completely that even the objects left behind seem confused. The cars waited in the driveway. The purses waited inside. The dog waited in the house. The phone waited to ring. The beds, the rooms, the small domestic details. All of them seemed to be waiting for people who never came back. And that is the image that stays with people. Not a chase. Not a final scream. Not a clear villain revealed by evidence. Just a house that looked almost normal. Almost. There is something especially frightening about a case where normal objects become silent witnesses. A purse cannot say why it was left behind. Car cannot say why no one drove it away. A dog cannot explain who came to the door. A broken light cannot say when it broke. And a house cannot tell investigators what happened inside its walls unless the evidence survives. That may be the final cruelty of the case. The answer may once have been inside that house. It may have been on a surface someone touched. It may have been in a message someone erased. It may have been in a footprint, a glass shard, a sound heard by a neighbor, or a movement seen from a window. But time is not kind to fragile evidence. The longer a case remains unsolved, the more the night hardens into legend. People repeat the same details. They argue over the same theories. They search the same timeline again and again. But the three women remain missing. The FBI's public listing says Sherrill, Suzanne, and Stacy disappeared from Levitt's home and have not been heard from or seen since. Springfield police continue to present the case as an unresolved disappearance from June 7, 1992. And after all these years, the question is still not only what happened. It is how it happened so quietly. How did three women vanish before morning? Who came to the door? Who knew they were there? Who left the belongings behind? And where did Sherrill Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall go after the house went silent?